this whole thing meticulously except for a problem.
So, watching this documentary and watching some of the other making of stuff that I've seen on the Avatar Blu-rays and everything, it feels like your relationship with the actors has become completely liberated by this performance capture technology. And it also seems like you're able to really focus on them. Like, I'm fascinated by this idea that you don't even think about lenses or where you're going to put the camera or any of that stuff until you're done with them.
Yeah, we were just doing a demonstration today for SAG-AFTRA leadership at our studio. I think some of the folks are here, or at least some of the SAG membership are here, right? And I think they were kind of blown away by how intimate it is creatively, not technical at all. I mean, it looks technical because you're wearing this stuff, you guys are. But in terms of your question, when I'm doing a live action movie, maybe 50% of my attention can be on performance and on you guys. And it's 100% when we're doing performance capture. Because I'm not thinking about dolly track and cranes and the sun setting and extras in the background and vehicles moving and coordinating all the stuff that happens beyond the immediate performance. I'm just there with you guys. And I'm not at Video Village watching screens. I'm just very present with them. So as a writer-director, that makes me very happy because it's just all about creating these characters. And working with, amazing actors such as yourselves guys, it just makes it such a joy to go to work every day. And there's not as much dread in it, in live action. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. I've been doing it for 45 years, whatever. It's like there's a dread when you go on to a live action set that you're not going to make the day, something's going to happen. But when I come into where we work and the volume, it's a joyful thing, and we'll spend as much time on a scene as we need to spend to get it. And if that's 2 hours, fine. If it's 5 hours, fine. Doesn't matter. We just have to feel like we've gotten it. And I always say, I think I always say, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Well, and Oona, you were the newest addition to this series. What were your initial conversations with Jim like, and what was your take on all this when he explained how this was done?
I was very much just sort of shell-shocked for the first few weeks. I think I was just trying to take in all of the information, but what I remember the most was how encouraging Jim was and still is actually, and how much support and how many resources there were to really to become the character, because it was the process. The first few weeks was we didn't film. We just went into training and learning about firing bow and arrow and learning about Bugang and trying to figure out how this character inhabits the world that she's in. And she's very different. Brian is very different. So that we had a lot of fun with talking about her movement and talking about her the fear, not everything that she's afraid of, she just darts straight towards, she charges towards it, things like this that were so for me, just I hadn't done that kind of work since I was in drama school, really having the opportunity to prepare a role with so much support, and obviously working alongside the most brilliant people that I could dream. So it was a dream come true in so many different ways.
I just want to throw in real quick that Oona brought in some ideas that were kind of amazing. She said, why don't I use this weapon called a Bugang? Am I pronouncing it right?
Bugang.
Bugang. And she showed us what it was. And we're like, oh yeah, we want that. And then she made up this whole fire dance around the Bugang, which is mesmerizing. That's just all her creation. Everybody brings something into the sandbox, and then we just play.
Well, it's interesting that you reference drama school, because that's what I was thinking watching this, is there are scenes where it doesn't look like the biggest franchise in the world. It looks like you guys are like high school students putting on a play or something.
Completely.
And I'm wondering for the other actors if you could talk a little bit about how this kind of experience differs from what you're usually doing when you're on movies.
Well, I did a lot of work off Broadway where you really have no money for anything more than leotards and a kind of empty stage. So I love this work because it's so free, and you're just there on the stage with your fellow actors, connecting to them, connecting to the material, and literally, because Sam and I did a demo today for some SAG members, it was fun to actually talk about the experience with other actors, because you prepare, of course, like all of us do, but when you go in, you don't have a set thing in mind. You're actually there to find out what would really happen if these two people were in this situation and had to, express their desire or their needs or their, and you just are there to find out, to go through that mystery. And I honestly think our world is so wonderful for actors, but I feel like this is such a joyous place to play, and I feel very safe. I think we all do in the volume because of what you created. It's a really safe space, and I found that especially valuable because I was going to do the kind of crackpot thing of turning into a 14-year-old in front of people, and yet I always felt so supported, and I felt privacy. Everyone was like doing their own thing,
Sam, what about you? What's your take on this experience?
When I make a regular movie, I'm very scared, to be honest, because it's kind of designed in this very weird way where everything's kind of rushing to get the shot. As Jim said, here comes the close-up. And when on a regular movie, the nerves that hit me when you're about to go in the close-up and everybody's watching, it's like too much pressure. And pressure is the killer of creativity in a weird way. So on this, you're always in a close-up. And so you can't even think about that. You just have to be as truthful as you can every single time. And what that does, it's not about getting it right. You just have the freedom to play a bit more and create. And there is no pressure. It's almost like we got rid of these regular conventions. And Jim's been saying he's uncoupled it. He's uncoupled the performance from the camera. And it's a fantastic, way to put it, because when we're doing the performance, he's right there with me. And he's just letting me play, and I just trust in it. And it's not about getting it. We have to get the moment and get it. We just have to make it truthful as best we can. And this process allows that exploration. For a creative, that's what you're after.
Well, there's a great line that the casting director, Martin Simkin, has in here where she says it's basically like the purest form of acting. And I'm wondering, Stephen, if that's what you found as well, working on these movies.
Well, it's... for one thing, one of the reasons I love doing movies, any kind of movie, live action films, but one of the great things about doing live action is it gives you such a great appreciation when you do get into performance capture, because of all the things that my colleagues have been talking about, the time to explore. Acting to me is transformational, and there's no place that I've found where that transformation can occur as completely, as imaginatively, and authentically as it can in the volume. All you have to do is look into the eyes of your acting partner and to derive the energy, the reality of the imagined situation that you're creating. And there's just great depth in the volume. It's to me, it's the nutshell that bounds infinite space in there, and I love working in it.
Well,
That's from
He's
Hamlet.
also a screenwriter.
Well, speaking of screenwriting, I'm wondering, for you as a writer, does this also give you a lot more flexibility in terms of being able to respond with the actors or let the script evolve as you're shooting in a way? Like, I would imagine if you're shooting a movie like Titanic, you're kind of stuck with what you got to a certain extent. It's such a machinery behind you.
Well, look, I've always pushed toward trying to be, improvisational with actors and so on. But on a live action film, you really to make the day, you really have to move quickly. So all that gets pushed forward into a rehearsal that's relatively inexpensive compared to the shooting day. And we try to rehearse everything up front and try to do all our exploration up front, right? Here, we just break that up. And so we have that rehearsal every single day. We just come in, we say, okay, what's this scene about? We talk about it. Sometimes we're just sitting around for the first hour. And that freaks people out at first. We're just talking about the scene. All right, let's get it up. Let's try some things. Oh, that's working, but we could do it another way. And we explore. As a writer, there's a moment, and I don't know how many people here are writers, but there's a moment where you find yourself writing a line that you didn't expect to write. And that's the moment when the characters come alive. It's like, holy shit, now they have their own life. The next phase of that is when the actors start to play the scene. Both are amazing, sort of delicious moments in the creative process. But when you guys take ownership and you start to breathe life into the character, I have to think about all the characters, so my mind is very fragmented. They only think about their character and their part of the storyline. So they come to it with more detail, a lot more detail. So I keep my ear open. We do a lot of stuff kind of improv, just like get the words out of the way, just say what you mean. And all of you are great at that. And sometimes that's a better way to say it. Sometimes I'll even just rewrite the scene right in the moment and try to lock in on the best that was said from the lens of character. And I love that. I'm not precious about the words, unless specifically a line has to be said a certain way in scene 20 so that it can resonate in scene 80, something like that. Then I'll get specific. But otherwise, your opinions are as valid on the character as mine are. And I love that about it. I also don't need to be as good a writer because they'll help me out.
Well, does it also give you this sort of freedom, or does it make it easier in the sense that because you're not worrying about coverage and all that kind of stuff, are you better able to utilize the best of what they do? In the sense that on a normal movie, you're going to have to figure out, if an actor's better on this take and another actor's better on this take, you have to figure out how to kind of stitch it together or make it work. And here it seems like, again, you've got many more possibilities.
Well, it's just looking at it as an editor now, because I go all the way through the process. Your choices are relatively simple in the editing room. You throw out the 5 takes that are out of focus on the critical moments, and then you throw out the stuff that doesn't match, and you can't go over somebody's shoulder because they're doing something completely different and the timing doesn't work. You wind up with 3 takes. Here, everything we did is grist for the mill. So now as an editor, it's kind of a problem and a joy at the same time. Now it's like, all right, what serves the narrative the best? What serves the story the best? We wind up with a lot of time in editing, putting together the best pieces of what everybody did in a given scene. And then that's when the fun really begins, because now I'm going to start putting cameras on that. I haven't worried about the cinematography up to that point. So we narrow it down to the best performance moments, and then we can start doing coverage. And it's true, if we get one take we love, I can do all my coverage from that. Over the shoulders, close-ups, 2 shots, helicopter shot, anything, and I think that was clear in the way in the documentary. So we're not bound by coverage, but it gives us a lot more possibilities later. So now that has to make you more rigorous as a filmmaker. What emotional peak, Sam, you might peak in a scene or find something that's a little bit different than where Sigourney was, and I have to put those pieces together. That's normal for editing. One of the advantages of this process is we can actually put you being great on take 4 with you being great on take 2 and see it in the same shot at the same time. That's pretty cool.
One of the things that I think your work really lends itself to this technology, or it's not really technology, but this world, is that, we read a lot of scripts. When you pick up a Jim Cameron script, the stakes are so high, and every single page, every single scene that you might approach is high. Like the thing we are doing today, there was a whole species that was going to be lost if I can't convince him to do something about it. So it's almost like the scale of the story makes it impossible for us not to jump in with both feet, because there's no way you can kind of casually get there. You've got to fling yourself off the cliff and ready to do the dive. And I feel like that, I feel very spoiled by your scripts because there's always so much at stake, there's always so much that pays off, and they have such a really strong living structure.
It's just actor bait. I just want, I just want good actors to show up for my movies, so I try to write some good dialogue for them.
Well, I have to
It
ask.
sounds like, what the fuck did he just say?
Well, Sigourney, you mentioned earlier the kind of crazy idea of you playing a teenager in these movies. I'm just fascinated, like, Jim, where did that idea come from, and what were those initial conversations like? How did you react when he came to you and said, I want you to play a teenager in the next one?
The jokey answer is I always think of her as 14 emotionally. Well, I mean, look, the Sigourney we know from movies is usually very alpha type, you know, and super intelligent and super in command and all that. And that's not who you are, right? It's called acting, right? This was a chance to glimpse the real thing. No, it just sounded like such a fun idea. We killed her off in the first movie. I love working with things, so I had to bring her back somehow. So she comes back as essentially her own daughter.
Honestly, I think only Jim was crazy enough to do anything like that. But in an odd, strange way, he sees something that other directors don't in me. They see what I've done, kind of, and he sees this sort of area that is hidden, you know. And again, it gives you such freedom. And he's the kind of director who I think can feel the tenderness of his actors and can encourage that to live through this process. You know, this process is hard on the work, and it has to be really strong writing to carry you through the filming process, which can be really challenging because of the business. And anyway, I've lost my train of thought, but anyway, it's whatever I was. Oh yes, we were talking about playing 14.
Technically 50.
Yes,
But
on the cusp.
14 is good too.
Well, I'm just so glad he thought of it, and I feel like it's such an opportunity for all of us to transform. It's an invitation for all of us to transform into someone as far away from you as you might imagine, you know. And I feel so grateful for the opportunity to be able to go back to my nerdy 14-year-old self and re-experience life as her, because I think I had a kind of fractured experience, and it's such a different thing to be able to go back to this time and try to flourish.
And you hung out with a lot of 13, 14, 15-year-old girls to like re-trigger some of those memories and those thought patterns and all that. You did a lot of preparation.
Now, I was especially concerned about the voice, that, you know, like boys' voices drop, but girls don't really do that. So I hung out at LaGuardia for, you know, a few weeks, and it was so cool. What a great school. Wish I'd gone there. But what I noticed in the classes with the 14, 15-year-olds, man, half of them had the voices they would have forever. And yes, there were some that were high-pitched, but it was just their voice, who they were coming out at that point in time. And so I felt like this is great. You can't generalize about a teenager. It's impossible.
So Sigourney was using teenagers as models. Stephen, I'm curious, who did you use as your model for this character? Because this guy is one of the great villains of all time, in my opinion. He's just a terrifying asshole. And
Talking about Stephen or the character?
Think of it. Well, I use Jim Cameron as my. And I say that with love and due respect. But Quaritch is a manifestation of Jim, as are we all. All the characters are part of him. Did I look to any other sources? I have, Yeah, I mean, he probably. I have a fixation on Hannibal Barca, and
Okay.
but I don't think I used him, but I do have a fixation on him. No, I didn't really. It just came out. I've done military before, and I like doing. I'm happy to do military as long as I never repeat myself. But the whole concept of mission and duty, loyalty, those are themes that have always been really interesting to me as an actor and as a reader. And I like the idea of holding these concepts up as if they're a jewel and just turning them and seeing from role to role what's reflected, in them to me. So yeah, that's what it was. I tell you, when it was sent to me, this role, I knew I could play this part. I just knew it lived. I don't know where it came from, why. I am of a generation that I do think that if I was not an actor, that I probably would have done well in the military, because I take direction pretty well. But when I was coming up was during the Vietnam era, and that was not something so many people in the world and throughout history have not had a choice about going to war. I blessedly did. I was part of the draft lottery, and I didn't go. So, but I don't think this is answering your question at all. But what are you gonna do? I've always been attracted to the military thing, the regimen of it, the discipline of
The
it.
heroism and the courage. When I met you, you came in from just having come off the end of the run, I think, of your play that you wrote, right?
Yeah.
You should tell them about that, because I mean, you played all these Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor recipients. I wrote Beyond Glory, which is a solo play about 8 Medal of Honor recipients from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, different ethnicities, different services. I played black, I played Nisei. It was designed to be an acting tour de force. And I was very fortunate, I think, that the casting, I was being advertised in the New York Times. I was about to open up the Roundabout in New York, and so there was a picture of me very strack in my sleeveless T-shirt, as we call it now, and I think that you saw it.
You can't say Wakefield or anything like that?
No, you can't say that. You can't say Dago T. You can't say no. I was standing there in my Dago T wife beater, and then I got canceled. Things were going well until this. Anyway, but the interesting thing about the military guys I play is that almost all of them are mavericks. Almost all of them go outside the system. Beyond Glory, a Medal of Honor recipient is by definition somebody who goes outside the structure of the military to do something that's not expected of them. I think Hort is very much like that.
You see that more in Fire and Ash. I mean, he goes much farther off the reservation.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a developing theme. So, I don't know, that's kind of where it comes from for me.
Well, I think you kind of get to part of what makes the performance great, I think, which is you play this guy with such commitment and such, like, you know this guy really believes in what he's doing, I mean, even if he's wrong or whatever. And I'm curious, Oona, your character in Fire and Ash is also technically an antagonist, correct? But how did you see her? How did you get inside her? How are you playing her? Like, are you trying to do the same thing that Steven's doing in terms of kind of getting inside her head and playing her, from her point of view?
I never saw her as a villain, and I don't think you say that as well. You're not the villain, they're complicated, but I think both of these characters are also very principled. For me, it was a great revelation to have the conversations with Jim around the scene where she tells a little bit about her biography and her kind of origin story of why she is the way she is. And it struck me as like she's actually a very human character. because the depth of trauma that comes from the separation from the connection to nature, which, you know, everybody here understands what that feels like, or even if we've forgotten even what that feels like. But, you know, all of that disconnection breeds conflict. It's the source of all conflict, really, is separation and thinking that you're somehow other. And so that root, I was like, that's so easy to connect with, and that's so actually very, very smart to put in Pandora, because it shows us that these themes are universal, you know, that you can go to some far off moon and see the repercussions of pain that has not healed, you know, of holding on to anger that comes from a deep, deep grief, and that is only perpetuating itself because, you know, what she just charges towards the things that make her afraid. You know, she's got the right idea. She's got to address the things that make her afraid. But in a, you know, perfect world, she would go over to them and address them with the intention of healing, but she just wants to destroy them. So that makes her a villain, I guess. But I have a lot of respect for Varang. I think she's a fantastic leader. She's really the hero of her people. She brought them back and gave them a new direction and orientation in their lives and in their society. And she's reinventing the whole way to be on this moon. You know, she's found out a whole new religion, a whole new system of power, and a whole new relationship with the sky people. She's a revolutionary.
Well, and now, Sam, you've been the center of these movies, basically going back to the beginning. How has your approach, or what you've learned about this process, how has it evolved? How has your collaboration with Jim evolved from the first movie? Or is it still pretty much the same as the way you guys worked together from the beginning?
Just gets braver and crazier. That's pretty much it. It's hard. You know, I love making these movies. I love it more than anything. I love working with Jim more than anything. So but it's just comes down to trust. That's it. You gotta, you know, Jim's evolving this story. I trust him implicitly that he understands these characters and lets us inhabit them. And then when he says we're going underwater, we go underwater. When he, you know, that's the character of Jake as well. You know, go to the other planet and liberate them. So we go to this other planet and we do what we got to do.
And we do have fun talking about it and exploring it. And, you know, I wrote, you know, 2 and 3, and then the sequels from the perspective of a father of 5. At the time I was doing the writing, they were in their teens, and Sam became a father of 3 sons between movie 1 and movie 2, right? Or I think the third one was born on 2. I don't remember the exact timing.
3 kids, man, it screws you up.
Right? But you look at the world through a different lens when you're a parent.
And that's kind of what my connection with Jim and this character, it is definitely Jake and Sam. They're 2 different things. But I'm an actor that loves using a lot of the paint that's within me. And Jim explores characters that, you know, look, Jim has kids. Jim is evolving as a person. They're parallel, but then we get to do it on this bigger canvas. And it's an interesting dynamic, you know what I mean? And it's one that we don't necessarily discuss in detail, but I definitely, after knowing Jim as long as I've known him and doing 3 movies with him, we know just by looking at each other, this is where we want to push this. This is where the story is going to evolve, and this is how the characters are going to move. I think that the point of this whole process, it becomes a very intimate process. Jim's not sitting, as he says, he's not sitting behind the camera. He's right there with you when you do these scenes and throwing ideas out, and you're bouncing ideas off, and it is very much like painting. I read a great thing. Joaquin Phoenix said it maybe recently, and he said that it's so interesting that when you see a piece of art, that you get the privilege to talk about the paint. And it's kind of cool, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. And that's very fucking difficult to do as well, because we're still, as artists, we're discovering what we do, and then we're having to unpack it for all this. And then try to make it simple when it's not. Because if it was simple, then everybody would be doing this, and it's not.
Yeah, but one of the cool things about this documentary is it does make it sort of clearer what you guys do. And one of the things I've always liked about you is going back to the Laserdisc days when you put out like the big box sets of Aliens and The Abyss, is that you're very open about your process. Like you like to share what you do. You're not one of these directors who kind of keeps it close to the vest and doesn't want anybody to know how they do it or what they do. And this was another example of that. It's great. I'm just curious, like for you, what motivates that in terms of you wanting to share what you do, to make these documentaries, to put them out in the world for all of us to see?
Well, there's a bigger team than just the cast, and that's an exploration as well. We go in to solve problems, and we have a bunch of smart. There's nothing I like better than to have a really big challenge and have found people that are, you know, smarter than me. I'll keep them on task, but they have to solve a lot of, in the case of an Avatar movie, a lot of technical problems. You know, on Fire and Ash, we have 3,500 shots, and they're all VFX, every last one of them. So, you know, part of it is just the scale of the work and how do we design systems that can handle that and stay truthful to the performance in shot after shot after shot. You know, so we're designing all the systems. So it's about pride in the group and in the team effort. I had a moment after Avatar came out, it's huge, highest grossing film in history. Do I really want to try and do that again? You know what I mean? It's like, I thought, no, I'll just go do ocean exploration because I love that. And in fact, I did. I went off for a couple of years and built a sub. I went to the deepest place on the planet, all that. And what drew me back and to plunge into that vortex again was you guys and our core team of these innovators, most of them half my age, right? That like the challenge. And we call it sort of the Avatar family. It's a real thing. It's a real thing that we respect each other and we love working together, and we enter the volume, we come on the set with a certain joyfulness to see each other and to challenge each other. It's hard to describe. It's probably the feeling that they might have had on Friends in year 7 or something like that. Seriously, you work with people. This is the chosen family. It's not the biological family that you can't get rid of and you got to see at Thanksgiving. This is the chosen family.
Well, yeah, mentioning the Avatar family, you know, just to sort of wrap things up, I want to say it was so, one of the things that was so nice about this documentary was seeing John Landau, because he was absolutely like one of my favorite guys I ever met in the filmmaking. Such a beautiful, wonderful guy, and obviously such a huge contributor to these movies and to your career. So it was really cool to see him and to see that you dedicated the movie to him. But I want to thank you all for coming out and talking with me about this stuff. And I also want to let everybody else know and invite you to come to Pandora. We're going to have, there's an exhibit inspired by the films over on stage 1. It's got some props from the movie, some costumes from Academy Award winner Deborah L. Scott, and there's people out there to guide you through it. So come out to the reception on Pandora, and thanks for coming, and thank you all for doing it.
The exhibit's really cool, guys. You're going to like it.